See, look, this is an example on the petitions committee. They put here, like, require MPs, this is a petition they've approved, require MPs who are proven to mislead the public to resign and create a fact-check committee. You require them to resign. Well, they've been elected by the electors, so Johnson resigned anyway when he misled the public, but they can't be prosecuted. They're meant to be impeached, but they never impeach them. There's not really much point in that, but I can't believe they've approved that. But anyway, they have approved it. But the thing is, it says require MPs proven to mislead the public to resign, right? So I actually believe that this committee is misleading, and I'll show you an example of MPs actually being misleading now, right? Because here, when we go to the rejected petitions, 24 rejected petitions, right, so far, none of mine yet appeared on there. I don't know how many petitions have been submitted by the time it was the second or third date it had been open. But anyway, the rejected one, where's the one that mentions here, politicians are too expensive, reduce their salaries and remove their privileges. So this got rejected, saying they wanted Parliament to reduce the salaries and remove the privileges. But you'll have a hard time removing the privileges because it's set in the Constitution, so you're going to have a hard time doing that, because there's actually a law that says that the Constitution can't be changed, but only other statutes, but not constitutional ones. Anyway, what Parliament have said is they rejected it, and they've said that it's about something that the UK government or Parliament is not directly responsible for. It says it's about something, I'll repeat that twice, so nice I have to say it twice. The UK government and Parliament aren't responsible for setting MPs' pay. It doesn't matter whether they're responsible for setting the pay or not. The Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, IPC, is responsible for deciding on MPs' expenses and pay. IPC is independent of both Parliament and government. Well, it can't be independent from the government, because then it won't be part of England, which is protected by the army, and part of English government. I really don't think foreign governments are setting Parliament's wages in this country, because we've got a country which has a border, citizens, laws, and defendable, right? The IPSA, yes, like there's like the National Lottery, the Ombudsman, various other agencies. There are non-departmental government agencies, like they've got the Boundary Commission, they've got the Electoral Commission, they've got Ofcom, Advertising Standards Authority. Ofcom were in front of the committee getting a roasting for not doing things right. Ofcom's going to be independent. The fact is, right, we just saw a petition before that says that MPs who are misleading should be made to resign. They approved that. This is actually an example of MPs being misleading. What they're trying to say is, right, they're trying to make out that this person, because this person asked for the MP's wages should be taken away if they don't perform, and their privileges, right? And they should have to do all these things like be transparent and so forth. Well, that transparency part could be put in the rules of Parliament, right? Now, whether or not that person said that in here, I know in my mind that, you know, there's a way of doing that through what he asked, and that is, it's up to what someone asks for generally, right? The MPs, he doesn't have to say how they do it. The MPs have to, it's like when you order a burger, you say I want a burger, you don't have to tell them how to make it. The MPs are the ones who've got to be creative in how they're going to implement it. The fact is, though, right, this is the fact why the MPs have been misleading on this particular one, right? Effectively, this IPSA place, right, it didn't appear from nowhere. It didn't just make itself. In fact, nothing in this country can make itself because everything is governed or regulated except maybe a US Army base, but that's even through agreement with other countries. And even diplomatic offices where there's a jurisdiction, you know, who owns the building, how do they get planning permission, etc. The body that regulates the MPs' wages was created by government. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't created of itself because it needs regulations. It needs rules and regulations. Government can change its rules and regulations. And government actually could get rid of that body, you know. What you could have said, get rid of the IPSA, right? And have government's MPs set their own wages and we'll set them like this or that. Now, what the MPs said, trying to make out that it's nothing to do with Parliament or nothing that Parliament can intervene in, but how did Parliament make it? That's the thing. You know, it's, why don't you say, create a new, you could have just had create a new department or non-governmental agency that does MPs' wages. Okay? You could have had that. But the thing is, that's a no-brainer. If you want their wages reducing or take away the privileges anyway, which we can't take away the privileges, maybe you should have rejected it on that point. But it's, you know, okay, this guy wants us to do this and that. Well, how can we do it? Well, what we'll have to do is we'd have to, you know, scrap that place and build a new one. They don't want to entertain that. And the fact is, if you ask for a burger, right, and you're not a chef, you can ask for whatever food you want. They're the chef, right? So you don't tell them how to make it or ask them how to make it. You don't have to. You say, I want a burger. And they're the ones who, when you go to Parliament, right, you know, want lower the MPs' wages and do this and that. You know, you don't have to. You don't actually say exactly how. You don't even have to say really. We'll scrap that agency completely and build a new one that governs the wages, right? You don't need to say that part because that would be a no-brainer anyway. You know that's the way to do it. It's almost like punch and jury. That's the way to do it. And what annoys me is they reject a lot of these petitions. Now, that's misleading people. Basically, it is misleading people because they don't want to. They don't want to be the one who has to think up of the way of how to implement it or do it, how it can be done, right? And the problem is that, so they reject it, but yet they're the ones who are limiting how much writing you can put and limiting how you could say how they to do it in great detail or write what you want doing and then say things like, well, you know, you can choose how you can implement it or whatever. They're heavily restricting what you can write. I mean, even when I brief what I'm asking and give some detail, you know, there still always could be just an extra few words to help clarify what I've just said. So then they don't ask questions or are clueless. And it's that part when they come back with like, oh, you know, when they come back as if they don't know what you're asking, when they didn't give you enough words to allow you to explain what you're asking. Because I find that either you use all the words up trying to make it clear what you're asking for, but then they say that there's no way to do it. Then if you use all your words up explaining how to do a certain thing, then they say, well, we don't know what we're asking for. So it's like you're damned. You can either give the instructions but not have any room to explain what right they have to do it, or you can go explaining all the legal part of it and what gives them the right to do this or through what procedure. But then they say you made it clear, in fact, what you're actually asking, even though you've said how to do something, but we don't even know what it is that you're asking. So this is frustrating why the standard and quality is so low.